Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Welcome. I'm super excited. Guys, I have my Harry Potter glasses on. It's time. We're going to get into not discussing Harry Potter, but even something more fun. We are talking about Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. So, I have the book here that you can see, and it comes with like a fancy cover. I take the covers off so I don't mess it up, and I tabulate like crazy. Look at all those tabs. I know, don't judge me, but you can, it's fine. But we have a lot to talk about, so I really just want to dive deep into this conversation. If you have questions, thoughts, all of that good stuff, as you know, this is a conversation, so please bring them, and we'll get to it, okay? And so let's start off with, if you don't already know who I am, a little intro. My name's Natasha Nurse, owner and co-founder of Dressing Room 8, which is a coaching and consulting platform dedicated to women entrepreneurs, creatives, and just women who are looking for innovation and how they approach their life, their business, everything in between. It's amazing. It's been really fun, guys, doing this. And I started the book club a little bit over a year ago because I was just on a mission to want to read more books. And to be able to do that, I felt like holding myself publicly accountable was going to be a really good measure of me having to, at bare minimum, read one book a month. And so with that, we have the Dressing Room 8 book club. And so we read everything from finance, personal coaching and development, fantasy, kind of romance. We run the gamut because those are kind of the interests of books that I like to read. So I hope you've been joining along and having a good time with me. And today, like I said, we're going to go over Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. And this is a finance book, I think, unlike others that I've read before. So I definitely really appreciated it from that perspective. And for me personally, finance books we read like the Tony Robbins finance book, and that was really good on stocks. This one I would say is a really good kind of wake up call kind of book when it comes to how are you managing your money and how, like, what is your narrative in connection with debt and cash, and how are we thinking about all of these tools that we have available in our life. So I asked for you to do the couple of things, for you to definitely share this out. I greatly appreciate your support. And then with that, join in the conversation. Please put in your comments, thoughts, all of that good stuff. And if you have Harry Potter glasses, join me in wearing them. Fabulous. And let's get to it. So I found a really fun summary on 4minutebooks.com. It says, the Total Money Makeover shows you that you're not as financially secure as you think, that it's time to stop accepting debt as normal, and that all it takes is to build the financial future you want is a 7-step plan. So that's like a phenomenal summary as to kind of what this book is. It goes through the different steps that you need to have financial freedom, and also describing to you what financial freedom really looks like. So if you are struggling with finance or understanding how to manage your money better, this is a phenomenal book for that. Some things that you'll take away, as discussed on southernweddings.com, the Total Money Makeover can help you design a surefire plan for paying off all your debt. Absolutely. There are reiteration after reiteration of families that have worked his program that are now debt-free. So definitely I agree with that sentiment. Recognize the 10 most dangerous money myths. I really like that section of the book because there are a lot of money myths that we're walking around with in our minds that are money myths, meaning they're not true. They're not true. Oh my God, right? So what are they? How can we dispel them, and how can we learn to think better and more accurately about money? Next, to secure a comfortable nest egg for emergencies, he talks a lot about having this emergency fund, because why? Shit happens, right? Not about like, if shit will happen. Just accept the reality that most likely shit's going to happen. Whether it happens now or 50 years from now, shit happens, right? Your car breaks down, maybe you lose a job, maybe you gain a job, maybe you bought something too expensive, you can't afford it, right? Like shit is always happening in life. How we respond is really a testament to how we have developed a relationship with finance and the level of success that we're imploring in our lives. So have an emergency fund. And basics, he talks about starting it at getting it to at least $1,000 and continually growing it. Why? So that when shit happens financially in your life, you're not like, woo, totally, rocking your world, but it's more like, how much do I have to cut the check for? And you keep it moving and you build back your emergency fund. So you kind of create this nest egg of quote unquote security for yourself so that you can more comfortably deal with financial hiccups and also financial wonderfulness that happens in your life. Another point, as stated on southernweddings.com, is the book will radically change your life and your family's legacy. I agree. I totally agree with that statement as well. Why? Because throughout the book, there are constant testimonies of families that have worked his system and have taken a course or whatnot and read this book, and they have implored themselves to be better with money and to buckle down and to sacrifice a little bit. Because at the bottom of every page, I'll see if I can show it to you so you can see. Okay, so you see these words? You probably can't read them. But at the bottom of every page of the book, it says, if you will live like no one else, later you can live like no one else. So he has this over and over and over again on every page of the book. Why? Because that's a principle that he's applied for his own life, because he went to being a millionaire and then lost it all and then had to rebuild his life and become a millionaire again. And him and his wife struggled with finance and having to deal with having everything and losing everything, right? That's quite a traumatic financial narrative to deal with, but they did it and their marriage sustained and they went forward. At least at this point in the book, I haven't done research to see where he's at where he's at marital wise right now, but at least to this point in the book, he talks about kind of what they went through and the struggles that finance puts on a relationship and especially a marriage. And then with that, I think we should get into some memorable points in the book. So, and again, if you have questions or thoughts, please feel free to add and let me know. If you're interested in getting a copy of the book, go to dressingroom8.com. You can pick up a copy yourself and totally read it. It's a phenomenal, easy read. You can totally read it in a weekend and get your life right? And get your finance game right. So page 3, myth versus truth. I don't have time to work on a budget, retirement plan, or estate plan. Is that a myth or is that a truth? That is a myth. The truth is you don't have time not to. So this is even something that I've talked to my husband about, right? The idea of making sure that you get your ducks in a row. And whether you are 12, 22, 42, 62, 82, planning is always a part of our lives, right? And so at certain points in our life, I think will planning or estate planning, retirement stuff seem more relevant than not. But if you read finance books, they will tell you there's no perfect time to start. And if you are being really honest with yourself, the earlier you start with your retirement planning and savings and investments and estate planning, the better off you'll be later on in your life. I think people get into more hiccups by delaying this narrative and this conversation, which is ridiculous because death isn't an option, it's inevitable, right? So it's just a matter of when, not if you will die. When you will die, right? So you don't know when that ticker will stop ticking. So, in your mind, maybe you think you have 100 years. In reality, maybe you have 62, right? And so if you're at 61, you would then be like, oh shit, I have to get it together. But you just don't know. You don't know when things will happen. And so it's just better to be prepared, right? Instead of preparing to be prepared, just be prepared, I think is the essence of the book. Next page, I would say page 5, I thought was funny. Shocking stats. 90% of people in our culture buy things they can't afford. Agree or disagree? I agree. I think that as someone, I love shopping. I love fashion, obviously, right? Obviously. But do we always buy things that we need? No. We buy a lot of things we want versus things that we need. And, maybe we try to convince ourselves of things that we need, but like what you need is actually like clothes on your back and food and water and heat and a place to stay, right? But do you need that, new lip gloss set from Amazon? Maybe, maybe not. Are you out, right? I have like drawers and drawers of makeup. Do I need all of the makeup? No, I want it, but it's important. And I think as you read the book, you'll learn to start to think about your financial spending habits and start to evaluate, do I need this? Do I want this? And can I afford my wants? Because I think what I do like about Dave Ramsey is that he's not saying don't buy anything, and he's not saying don't live. What he is saying is afford the life you want. Right? Because there are needs and there are wants. And so if you want a Ferrari, if you want a $5.5 million home, that's fabulous. Go ahead, be gangster, live it up. But can you afford it? Because if you can't afford it and you're living with these things, there's going to be a consequence for that. Because when shit hits the fan, which happens in various forms in our lives, how are you going to be able to financially respond to that decision? Right? When everyone in your household has no income, how do we pay the mortgage? How do we afford the second home? How do we afford the retirement home? How do we afford the $5,000 cruise that we just bought, right? Like, how are we affording our lives is a question no one else can answer but you. So you have to really think hard and look at your budget and get real honest with yourself. And he talks about that in the book. Next page I'd like to go to, page 17. Aren't you having fun, guys? So much fun. So he has a fun statement here. It is human nature to want it and want it now. It is also a sign of immaturity. So I say this to share this with you that like, I appreciated his snarkiness, to be honest. Like, I appreciated his kind of his candor and his ability to not sugarcoat shit, right? And at the end of the day, when we're talking about finance, it is a very vulnerable conversation. It's a very real conversation. You either can afford your life or you can't. And if you use some of the tables and the worksheets he has in the book, Dave Ramsey, again, Total Money Makeover, if you go through it and you start to break out those calculations, look at your expenditure for the month, for the last 6 months, the year, and you start to see, oh shit, I'm in the negative, that's a very real conversation that you need to have with yourself. And, are you living on a budget? There's a lot of people I personally have spoken to who I've said, how much does it cost you to live for the month? If you don't know that answer, then I beg to think that you're not living on a budget, right? Because if you don't even know your total expenditure, right, what is your end sheet balance sheet, then like, how are you living the most fiscally responsible life that you could be living? It's questionable, right? So shit to think about. Page 97. It's good. But just because we're going over this doesn't mean you shouldn't get a copy of the book, guys. This is exactly why I love doing these book club meetings, because it's an opportunity to go over the books that we're reading for the month, and then also go through the content. But if you haven't read it, it's the perfect nudge to say, Tasha told me to read it. I'm going to read it. How can I say I'm not going to read it? Exactly. So go ahead and read it. This is a little bit longer, so bear with me. In chapter 4 on money myths, the importance of a written budget was discussed. If you worked for a company called You, Inc., and your job at You, Inc. was to manage money, and you managed money at You, Inc., the way you manage your own money now, would You, Inc. fire you? Interesting. You have to tell money what to do or it leaves. I want to read that again to you. You have to tell money what to do or it leaves. A written budget for the month is your money goal. People who win at anything have written goals. Goals are what you are aiming at. Zig Ziglar, who's a sales god, if you aren't familiar with him, he's phenomenal. Maybe next year we'll implore a book by him so that you can read some of his wisdom. If you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. Goal setting is key, guys. It's a very, 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 very deeply rooted principle of success that you have to implore in your life. And he continues to say, money won't behave unless you tame it. P.T. Barnum said, money is an excellent slave and a horrible master. Again, money is an excellent slave and a horrible master. Think about what that means. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint. So why do you spend your lifetime income of over $2 million without a blueprint? Jesus said, which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Luke 14:28. I think that's the New King James Version. And also, for you faith-based folks out there who are tuning in, if you appreciate kind of having a little bit of religious context to things that you read, he throws in some kind of Christian principles, which I appreciate. You know, growing up Christian, it's definitely something I'm used to and comfortable with. So that paragraph alone is everything, Guys, the takeaways there. Money is an excellent slave and a horrible master. What does that mean? Means it's great to spend it, and it's a horrible way to try to serve it for your life. It is a tool, not your Lord. And another phrase to like, you should write it on like your phone background or something, which is, if you have to tell money what to do or it leaves. Think about that, right? So what do I have to tell money? It means creating a written budget, whether it's written on a notebook or written in on Google, like a Google Drive or something. You've got to have a written budget for yourself that you look at and you know, how much does it cost for me to live every single month of my life? How much does it cost for me to live this week, right? That's key, guys. And I hope that you really take that to heart, because I think that this paragraph was everything. So again, that's page 97 when you get the book. If you get the book, that is right there. And then there's right after that, there goes like kind of a story that goes about a family, that how they worked the system with him and are debt free. And it's really inspiring to see how many American families have kind of tapped into the system that he's offering people. And he's changing lives out here. He's transforming how people deal with money in their lives, how they view it, how they spend it, how they teach their children the value of money. Right? And another phrase he has on page 150 is, the good thing about principles is that they make life easy. I love that. The Virgo in me was like, yes, like all day, every day. Living without principles to me is not living. You have to stand for something, right? Like, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? So you have to stand for something. And it's up to you to decide what the principles are for your life. Like, nobody out here should be telling you what your principles are. That's a decision you have to make. Now, whether you hear principles or concoct them with others and you really want to apply it, that's your business. But what are your principles? What are your principles for money? What are your principles for your career? What are the principles for your love life, for your spiritual growth, for your fitness, for your personal development? Like, it goes the gamut for thinking about what type of life you want to live. So think about it. What are the principles that you want to have so that you can have an easier life? Who here wants to live harder or easier? I'm all about the easier, guys. Easier, easier, easier. Things are hard enough, aren't they? Jeez Louise. Woo! Especially now. Jeez Louise. So next page, and then we'll kind of start to wrap up the conversation. I know you're having a lot of fun, but I want to make sure that you go and buy the book, dressingroommate.com. Let me actually share that while we're talking here so that you can do it and you're not like, where do I go? You go, I'll share it in a moment. Go to get a copy of the book at dressingroom8.com. Okay? So I shared it in the comments. You have it. It's on the homepage. Just go and get a copy of the book and you will thank me. So, page 207. This was interesting. A shocking stat. So 19% of the people who filed for bankruptcy in 2002 were college students. So what's interesting about that stat and that statement is the idea that what's happening in our educational system is really atrocious. And a lot of people have different viewpoints on it, and I'm not going to necessarily like get political right now because that's a whole other conversation, y'all. Whole other conversation. But what I will say is, as someone who is a lawyer, right? I'm a licensed attorney by trade, and there was quite a hefty law school bill and a college bill that came with that journey. And do I regret it? Absolutely not. I'm a better, smarter, more capable woman because of it. But it does beg the question that when children are growing up in our society, especially American culture at least, what are we teaching our kids, right? Is the goal to go to the best school that you want to go to, irregardless of how much it costs. Is the goal to grow up and be financially savvy and make sure those decisions play a role in your educational goals, right? Like there's a lot of like deep questions there that you can really parse out and really dive and attack. And then also, I think, I could see multiple arguments on both sides, right? Like you could, who doesn't want to go to an Ivy League college, but do you want the Ivy League debt with it? Or, do you go more fiscally responsible and maybe start in community college and build your way up and get scholarships, right? But it changes the nature of your college experience. Do you want that? Do you not want that? Right? Like it's hard questions. It's definitely not easy, but I do implore you all who are maybe parents or are thinking about starting a family to really start to think about that question, right? In addition to, as stated in the news, if you've seen kind of the stuff going on around AOC and should you have children is one other question to ask. But if you are on the path of having children or already have children and you think they're going to go to college, what is that financially going to mean for them? What is that going to financially mean for you, right? And really, again, that's similar to estate planning, similar to retirement planning. That's a question that you don't put off later. It's something that you really dive in now, right? Those are things that if you start to plan and address now and have key conversations, get key resources to help you come to a decision that you need to for those questions, you're going to be better off for it. All right. So things that I loved about Dave Ramsey's book was the fact that it was super conversational. Unlike any financial book I've read, I didn't feel like it was super stuffy. I didn't feel like it was convoluted with a bunch of terms I didn't understand. I felt like it was very relatable. He wrote it like it was like you were just hanging with your uncle and he was like, listen, real talk, get your shit together, kind of an approach. And I really appreciated that because I'm a straight shooter. So anytime I can read a book that's like, here you go, get your life, I'm like, got it. Yes. Right? Let's not sugarcoat the shit. Let's keep it real. 100. So it was very funny as well. Like some of his phrases were really funny. Some of his kind of candor statements about, the bullshit that people do in their life to, like, I think he has a phrase about how most people spend a lot of time impressing, like living an expensive life that they can't afford to impress people that they don't like, creating a life they don't want. It's like nuts. It's just like, what the F, right? Like, and it's true. If you think about it, how much do we do that is for us? Or is it for the impersonation or the presentation that we're creating for others, which is important. Listen, a part of my platform for Dressing Room Mate is really thinking about the image that we're presenting to the world. But again, that's an image you have to actually afford because that's your fucking life. Like, so if you're driving that car that's literally making you live on a credit card every day of your life, is that the image that you need to be portraying? Is that the image you want to really be portraying? And what's the true cost of those decisions that you're making? So thinking about that shit, like real honest, I thought it was also interesting, some of the stats, and again, this isn't like written in 2019. So, I'd have to see if he has another book like more recently. But it'd be interesting to see kind of how some of the financial stats have turned the tide since, this book and see kind of where do people stand? Are we worse off? I mean, I beg to think based on the news, but the news does a lot of fear mongering. So yeah, no, I have issues with news reporting. I don't think things are that much better in our society, financially speaking, for the sense of how people are running their money, right? It seems like we still, have an uptick in people who are going and acquiring, $500,000 in student loan debt, can't get a job that pays $500,000. So what are we doing? Kind of conversations, which are old and tiring and really real though, because there's too many people that are living in this situation. So at what point will that shift in our society? We shall see, right? We gotta stay tuned. And like I said earlier, it's unlike any other financial book. So I think you guys will enjoy that. Things I didn't love about the book. Nothing. I thought it was funny. I read it in about, I think I want to say about 3-4 days. I got through it. I was like, yes. Like, the only, actually, nope, let me take that back. The only thing I didn't like about the book, and this just is contextually from like my personal perspective, as a plus size body, and living in a plus size body, I don't necessarily appreciate when the term like fat is used as, I guess, derogatory, but also just like in a negative light, right? And he does sometimes compare kind of financial wellness and fitness to physical fitness. And he's like, if you don't want to be fat, you got to go and work out, in the sense of like fat being a bad thing. So there are different streams of thought as to whether, if you use the word fat, is it good? Is it bad? How you use it? You know, I don't know where you stand on that line, but I personally, like, instead of making that comparison, I would just stick to the subject, right? Like, I think, you're not a nutritionist, you're not someone who deals with physical fitness. So I would have preferred not to see those kind of comparisons. That's the only critique I would say I have of the book. And if you read it and you happen to be plus size or you're not plus size, I'd love to hear you share your thoughts with me. You can come in the comments here and just let me know and tag Dressing Room Mate. And, I'd be curious to see. But as a plus size person, I didn't necessarily appreciate that. But again, that's my personal bias. That's my perspective. I would be interested to hearing other people's perspective there. My takeaways from the book. First and foremost, your finance matters, right? As much as we grow up and people want to hammer on physical fitness and things like that, there's a lot of priorities in your life. You have spiritual priorities, you have personal development priorities, you have career priorities, you have financial priorities. There's a lot of priorities, but we can't drop the ball when it comes to our finance. Why? Because money is what makes this world go round, guys. So if you're not paying attention to your money, you might be endangering your life. So think about that. Think about the decisions you're making. Think about where you're living. Think about the decisions you make when it comes to the life you want to afford for yourself and what you need versus what you want. Those are two different things. So there's that. Next, let's see. I would say, paying for things that you need and want. This book really helped me force myself to think about needs and wants even more critically. So I really enjoyed that because sometimes I can be a bit of a shopaholic when I want to be, right? And I'm just like, ooh, Amazon. Ooh, yes, Amazon. Ooh, yeah. Like Amazon be taking my coins. But again, right? Do I need this or do I want it? So sometimes I've been really trying to force myself before buying something to be like, do I need this or do I want this? And if I want it, do you got the coins? If I got the coins, go ahead, right? But if not, put it on that wish list and work towards it. Cash is king. So Dave Ramsey's a big advocate of, in the book, you'll see over and over again, the idea that we as Americans are carrying too much debt and it's strangling us. And we need to live on a cash only kind of approach to life, which is very extreme and very different than I think what is commonly shown in our media and our lives. Because what do we constantly see? We see ads from American Express, Visa, Discover, right? All of MasterCard, all of these cards, all this plastic. Y'all, we are not Plastic City. We are human beings and our debt has consequence. And so, if you want to dive deep in the book and learn a little bit more about it, I definitely recommend it. Go to dressingroommate.com, pick up your copy of the book. It will serve you well, right? But I got the principle. Like, cash is king. Okay. And that your debt is your foe, not your friend. That was another principle that I took away from the book. And then also the importance of learning how you can be better. So just like anything else in life, when we're born, we're not born experts. We have to learn how to walk, learn how to talk, learn how to pee, right? All of that good stuff. What a friend means, how to crayon color, how to cross a street, how to walk a dog. Like, there's all these things that we have to learn in our life. Financial literacy is one of those things. And we owe it to ourselves and our children in our lives to teach them these principles. And even if you yourself have to learn them, that's okay. It doesn't matter. As he says, it doesn't matter where you are, just being willing to kind of learn and take a step back and understand the error of your ways. And then making sure that you teach your family this and bring them on board of like, cash is king, debt is your foe, not your friend, and really living these principles. So overall, Dave Ramsey, thank you for writing the book. I loved it. You informed me. I'm going to get my life. I gotcha. Cash is king, guys. Cash is king. So with that, I just encourage you to please join me for the next Dressing Room Mate book club in March. If you want all the details, you will be able to find them on dressingroom8.com. I encourage you today to make sure that you check this out. Get a copy of the book. If you don't see it on the homepage, you'll also be able to find it on the My Recommendations page, because after today, I will be what? I'll be shifting and posting the next book that you should be getting for the next book club. So all details, as always, dressingroom8.com, but the My Recommendations page, you'll find all the books that we're reading for the year, as well as other book recommendations and things that I'm reading or I'm shopping and loving, and I recommend that you check them out as well. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate everyone who tuned in on the live, and if you watch this on the replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, if you have comments, just put in #replay. And share this, guys. Share this. Financial literacy, financial freedom. It's not a dirty secret. Don't keep that to yourself. Share, share, share. We can all be better. We can all learn, and we can learn to be better, which is really key, especially when it comes to our money. So with that, it is that time. I gotta say goodbye, y'all. So it's been fun. It's been real. It's been financially interesting. Woohoo! And I'm just really excited. I'm really pumped. This book was a really good book to read, and I can't wait for the March book club. So I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.